So, I'll start back when I was first introduced to linguistics and different languages, which was third grade. One day, the head priest said that he knew why people spoke different languages, and looking back now, I still don't think he knows what really happened. He told me about the Tower of Babel, which was a biblical story, in which people were trying to build a tower to reach heaven. And if you've seen the movie This Is the End, you really can't blame the Babylonians because they made heaven look perfect. It even has the Backstreet Boys. But God knew that the Backstreet Boys weren't in heaven yet because we're still in the Old Testament here. So he created different languages so they wouldn't be able to communicate and finish building the tower. After creating these languages, he separated the Babylonians and scattered them all over the world. So this was my educational upbringing until I read David Crystal's English as a Global Language. This book focuses on the importance of a global language, the history behind countries acquiring English, and whether a global language negatively affects minority languages. Alright, so Crystal starts his novel by explaining that just because a certain language is spoken more than others, doesn't mean that it is a global language. Think about it. We learned in this class that more people speak Mandarin than English. So why is Mandarin not the global language? It's because what's more important is who is speaking the language rather than how many people are speaking it. So I'd like to share a quote that points out some positive attributes about English that uses some big words that I would not have known prior to taking this class. So here's the quote. In its easiness of grammatical construction, in its paucity of inflection, in its almost total disregard of the distinctions of gender, in the simplicity and precision of its terminations in auxiliary verbs, our mother tongue seems well adapted by organization to become the language of the world. So, it's pretty cool that English has all of these great features, but as linguistics know, just because a language is organized does not make it a global language. A language becomes global because of the political power of people speaking the language. Alright, so Crystal talks about countries that were influenced by English, like Canada and the Caribbean. What happened with Canada was at the end of the Revolutionary War, the British people living in the US realized that they needed to get out of there before they got beat up, and they ran away to Canada, even though it's really cold up there. After the initial Britain loyalists moved up there, thousands of others realized that they were not welcome in the US and ran up there as well. So this movement affected Canada, and English became the main language up there. So the Caribbean is also another country influenced by English language. Crystal focuses on the importance of English language traveling to the south, but I believe that it was unintentional. The British were buying slaves in the Caribbean and tried to have slaves of various backgrounds together so they didn't speak the same language, like Jamie Foxx and Samuel Jackson in Django. That way it would be hard to plot a rebellion. However, the sailors spoke English and developed a form of pidgin between slaves and sailors. This broken English stuck with the slaves as they lived with their new owners, and eventually it was taught to their children. So English had become a huge influence over the Caribbean, and English became the first Black Creole speech in the region. One of the countries this novel does not focus on is the Netherlands. David Crystal believes that English is a foreign language there and is only seen in higher education. I disagree. I try to go to Amsterdam and the Netherlands every year and know that English is widely spoken there. I've spoken to the local bartenders and the cheese salesmen to know that English is widely recognized and used every day. I agree with Crystal that English is used in higher education, as I've checked out a few colleges there, but I do not see it as simply a foreign language in the Netherlands. Another thing I disagree with is Crystal's view on linguistic death. He acknowledges that English as a global language can destroy or change a minority language. Even though he poses this problem, he does not believe it is happening. He believes that people will become bilingual and support English and their mother tongue. I think that younger generations will see how important it is to learn English to communicate globally and fail to learn their original language. I have learned this not in other English classrooms, but at the restaurant I work at. Most of the chefs I work with speak Spanish, but realize the importance of English. This does not mean that they have to give up their original language, as David Crystal points out, but they do not feel that it is necessary to remain bilingual. A few coworkers admit that they lose their language every day and forget certain words because they are usually communicating in English and no longer know how to read or write in Spanish. People are recognizing English as a global language, and instead of becoming bilingual and holding on to their mother tongue, they are embracing English and losing their original language.
Girl problems, I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. I got the rap patrol on the cat patrol. Foes that want to make sure my casket's closed. Rap critics to say he's money cash holes. I'm from the hood, stupid. What type of facts are those? If you grew up with